And welcome back to Janky AF and Year of the Aerostar, episode number 21. Well, this one sort of just caught my eye. You know, you're scrolling through, perusing Aerostars, and every once in a while, it's like Jay Leno says, sometimes a car just sits right, you know, and this one just looked really nice to me. So I thought we would talk about it. So without further ado, here is a 1997 Ford Aerostar, listed in Onaway, Michigan for just $2,000. 150,000 miles on it, automatic transmission of course, exterior blue, interior gray. Pretty standard by all accounts, as the dogs go off on command there. And the fuel type is gasoline. Just last video we talked about diesel-powered Aerostars, and of course the Ford Aerostar was going to be designed to have a diesel engine offered in it initially, and that was canceled at some point, and I'll try to dive more into that at some point. But for our purposes today, we're going to talk about the good old gas job, as a tow truck mechanic once referred to his truck in front of me as. So, seller's description. I have a 1997 Aerostar. Immediately I'm jealous. New tires, new motor 2 years ago with paperwork. Well, that's always good if you got a new motor. You're going to want some paperwork and see if, you know, Russ and Terry put it in and they were drinking a little bit too much. Clean green title. That must be a Michigan thing. Or I'm guessing it just means no liens or anything like that. No salvage rebuilt. Has new shocks. Excellent. Suspension stuff can be expensive. Runs and drives good. Mileage is not accurate due to new motor. I love this description. Very straightforward, very to the point. If there is a flaw, it's described. There's a reason or rationale behind the flaw. So actually, you know, the mileage would be less than 150,000 miles. Now it says new motor. Now we don't know if that's brand new crate motor or one that was pulled from another vehicle. If I had to guess, probably not a brand new crate motor, but you never know. You'd have to ask about that. For $2,000, you know, you're getting a vehicle with less than 150,000 miles on it, in perfectly good running condition with some recent work to not only the motor but your suspension components too. I'd say that's a pretty screaming deal right there. It looks like they've even been working on it now. I think I see some PB Blaster in here or something to that effect. So let's get to the aesthetics now. You know, this light blue color, I don't think this is the Portofino blue. It almost looks like a slightly different shade, not maybe quite as metallic, but a wonderful Aerostar color, one that perhaps ran the entire run or something very similar. A light blue Aerostar was sort of one of the more common options. I'd say that, and the dark green you saw a lot, especially the extended versions in, and it's a wonderful color. Now, the thing that sticks out at me is not the fact that it's a two-tone, because many Aerostars were two-tones, but the fact that the bottom color here almost looks to be black. Now, the Aerostar did come, sometimes you'll see these front bumpers in sort of like, it's almost like a really deep, dark purplish blue, where it's like navy blue with a tiny bit of purple in there. But usually on a lot of, now I shouldn't say all, some just have these indentations that are completely without chrome or anything like that. But another thing you see often, especially on a lot of old pickup trucks, they'll have this like little two-tone strip on them that's painted black. And a lot of times you can tell it's, oh, there are the dogs again. They're very excited about this Aerostar, let me tell you. You'll see these lines and they're very DIY, you know, nice enough looking, but you can just tell that they're not sort of like a factory job. And often that's done when rust corrosion is repaired using either Bondo or having more metal welded in. Probably more likely Bondo in a lot of these cases when you're just trying to, you know, get something on there, get it done. No shame in that. And then they're covered up with like a black strip. I suppose it's easier to do that than to try to match the existing color on there. And you do see a lot of, you know, a lot of bumper and trim treatment, especially with all the cladding now, that are often a dark gray or a black, so it just sort of looks natural. I couldn't say as to whether that was the case here, but I'll sleuth a little bit for you. So right away I'm noticing, of course, you have these beautiful body lines in the panels of the Aerostar, and it looks like this one is sort of, you know, this crease or this indentation kind of disappears here, which may mean that it was, you know, there were some repairs done and they didn't take the time to like carve out a perfect little channel or groove there, and you can, you know, obviously forgive them for that. The other weird thing is that the grille also looks black, which shouldn't really say anything about the rest of the body here, although, you know, it'd be funny if they actually went through all the trouble of painting the grille black to match, because you would think a regular dark gray grille would look just fine and you're not going for super aesthetics. So that has me going one of two ways. Either this was just like a really rare spec where they somehow were able to get a black painted bumper to match their black two-tone trim, and it could be from the factory, or they just wanted to do a really nice job, and so, you know, they painted this bumper and the side, you know, rear sort of section of the vehicle in black, and they thought, well, it kind of looks a little awkward clashing with this dark gray bumper and the black trim, so why don't we just go ahead and paint the grille black too, to like sort of match everything. I don't know, but it'd be a I'd be very, very curious to know what the sort of deal with this thing is. I will say, if they did it themselves, they did a pretty darn good job. I mean, aside from, you know, you're not having this crease or indentation here, everything looks really, you know, you have this like kind of natural little bezel here, so that, and then obviously your bumpers can come off to be painted if they were. So not a super tricky thing, but still they took some time and some effort and some patience if they did indeed do this themselves. And then to paint the grille black to match, I think really gives it a wonderful aesthetic look. It looks great to me. So, you know, I've had a lot of great comments. Janky, do thank you for all those. So, you know, weigh in on this. What do you think, you know, happened here? Is this like sort of a DIY job? Or was this some sort of rare factory spec that was offered? Now, it is a 97, I should say. And a 97, kind of all bets were off, because the rear taillights were different than all the other Aerostars. Just they eliminated the amber section, which I've talked about a lot. I think they were only offered in certain trims, maybe only with the 4.0 engine, which this says it has. Oh no, that was the last one. I'm sorry, I'm getting my Aerostars confused. We don't know if it's a 3.0 or 4.0 engine. But the 97 Aerostar, it was like their swan song, and so they did a couple things differently, but I'm wondering if also they just wanted to really simplify so they didn't have to offer all the trim packages and all that, just to make it easier for them at the factory. Either case, they're sort of an outlier in the whole Aerostar world. The 97s are the, you know, the swan song for the Aerostar. So perhaps they had a couple different, you know, trim packages, and they experimented with coloring some body panels and trim pieces and accoutrement in different colors. I don't know, but it looked great. It looks really aesthetically quite stunning. A really, really beautiful package. I think the black, or maybe it's a super dark blue, goes wonderful with the light blue. I think it has a really, really quite nice appearance. It seems to sit very nice. The interior, again, these seats look just a little bit different than most Aerostar seats. Now, they still are your sort of two different materials here. You have your more sort of fuzzy, I don't know, it's not quite velour, but like you're just like sort of fuzzy fabric here. And then you have your more like quilted carpet-like panels that reside in the middle, that are probably a little bit more, you know, a little bit tougher, can handle more wear on them. Three things I noticed. Firstly, the material seems just a little bit different in here than it used to be in other Aerostars, even when there's no piping or any of that going on. It just looks like a slightly different cloth pattern. Secondly, I don't remember there being two ridges in here. I see two ridges in here. I don't remember that being a thing on most Aerostars I've seen. And then I almost want to say, now maybe it's just my eyes deceiving me, that the angle of this line with which the cloth differentiates is slightly different too. Now maybe Ford, you know, famously, Ford was going to stop selling the Aerostar in 1995, and it continued on for 2 years, reportedly because dealerships and the factory itself were bombarded with letters from people begging them not to stop selling it because they liked it so much. We certainly tend to believe that theory here at Janky AF. But it is a known fact that they were to cease production, and they decided to continue on selling it alongside the new Windstar, which of course was a front-wheel drive, more car-like van, as opposed to the Aerostar, which was much more truck-like, or really in a class unto itself. Let's be honest. So maybe they either ran out of parts or they ran out of materials. You know, 96 they had enough to cover it, but 97, you know, maybe that's why they made the new taillights, because they didn't have any left and they didn't want to crank out a whole new set of new ones because they know they were only going to make it for 1 year. So they sort of maybe saved a couple bucks on not putting the amber on there, and they had these seats that were close enough, or maybe they even were in a different vehicle and they slapped them in there. I don't know, pure speculation and conjecture. But I will say that 97s just for some reason seem to, you know, be a little bit different. And you see that a lot in the automotive world. You know, Tesla is a great example. Like every Tesla now from year to year, or even which month of which year it was made, will be slightly different. They're always sort of either improving things or selling so many that they can't keep stock readily available. So they're changing things or they're upgrading or whatever it may be. And you see that all over the automotive world. You know, it's funny that you see a car, especially like the Aerostar, where it just always kind of looks the same. But from year to year, they're always making little incremental changes. And you see a lot with, you know, smaller companies specifically where they're just trying to get cars out. And so there's always just little subtle tweaks and stuff. And I like that stuff. It goes into the lore of the vehicle, and you realize that these machines are being made by real people somewhere, and even the people that are running the companies are real people, and they have to make these decisions, and they have to try to work with what they got to make the best possible product and sell it for a profit. And so things like just sort of get altered and changed along the way. And you know, no two Aerostars are ever the same, and that's very clearly demonstrated here. And now again, just like the description, you have very purposeful. You have, okay, here's the exterior of the vehicle. Okay, here's the interior of the vehicle. Okay, I said new tires, so here's the new tires. And you know, that's a pretty nice looking thick tread. You even still have the little plastic nubbies here, or rubber nubbies here hanging off. So we have a good demonstration. Now, I wonder if we can deduce any more about the paint job from here. Now, perhaps because it comes over this crease a little bit, it was like a tape line that was made right there. If I had to guess, I would put my money on this was something that was done not by the factory and rather either by a shop or by the owner of the vehicle. I think there was probably a little, I maybe even see a little bit of overspray here, right there. So just a little bit of Aerostar sleuthing for y'all. And I think the biggest thing, honestly, was the fact that I feel like this crease has disappeared. And that would make sense because usually the rocker panel rust comes sort of right in front of the rear wheel well. You have this, you know, front tire that's kicking up all this debris and residue. Moisture gets trapped in there, it starts to rust. But if that's the case, it seems like they did a pretty decent job. Obviously, you'd want to... I feel like Michigan, and I love Michigan, it's just like New York State in that rust is a really significant issue in these states. So you'd probably want to check the underside of this vehicle and make sure it's not completely all, you know, seized up and whatnot. I almost... Is that a reflection? I thought that was maybe like a little diffuser down here. I wonder if it's even like a sport bumper that they got put on there. Wow, I'm just discovering more and more things. Or maybe that's just a reflection of something shiny underneath, but I don't know what would be so shiny underneath the vehicle. So I almost feel like I see the line over here. Maybe this was on them and I'm just not noticing it as much because of the color difference, or maybe it was actually, you know, the sport bumper had that extra little piece of like aero on there that I've talked about in previous videos. A lot to uncover and discover on this 97 Aerostar, but a beautiful example. And I think for the price, you know, even if it's had some rust on it, it's been corrected, obviously. So you're probably going to get some trouble-free driving for a while for $2,000 with under 150,000. Quite a good deal. Brand new sneakers on it, and they look to be of a, you know, a nice tread. So all around, just good listing, good van, unique specimen, 97, unique year, and just caught my eye, so I thought I'd talk about it here for a while on Year of the Aerostar. So thanks so much for watching. We'll have another one for you very soon, and until then, Janky do thanky.
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.